Hey, hey, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Owning It. I'm your host, Paya, who is the founder of Your Own Pathway and this podcast called Owning It, where I interview and talk to badasses who are forging their own path and who are innovators, generation curse breakers, and who disrupt the system. And when I thought of that, I thought of my next guest who graciously I felt like I read your story because you have a very online presence, and I was like, I want to talk to this person. So please welcome Heather Reese, who is an activist content creator. So welcome, Heather. Thank you for being here today.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so honored to be a part of it. Thank you.
Yeah. So when I talk to people, we all have a story about there's a pivotal moment in our life that kind of forces us to forge our own path. And I think through all the work that I've done with people too, we all come to the realization that at first we feel like things happened to us. And now we look back, it was like, oh gosh, it happened for me. So
Absolutely.
what do you think happened for you to be an activist content creator?
For sure. I would say this is so funny. I would say when my ex-husband left me, he left me 2 weeks into my brand new job at the firm that I'm currently with, 2 days before our wedding anniversary. And I thought that it was it. Like, I just remember being like, this is the worst my life is ever going to get. Um, but what was so beautiful from that is that I got to find myself and I got to meet all these amazing people and do things that I never would have been able to do. So I would say that was the pivotal moment in my life. Everything in my life changed. I went on social media. I started going into like divorce talk. I started going to millennial talk. Then I started looking for a community. Um, and my entire life, I felt like I had been kind of defined what other people had wanted me to be, like as uh, growing up Jewish, as growing up as being adopted, as being very whitewashed in my adoption, and then, being a wife. There was just so many things that I didn't really ever get to sit back and be like, no, this is how I want to define myself. And I think from that moment in time, I got to, figure out exactly who I am.
Wow. So all this happened 2 days before your wedding anniversary?
Yeah, for I think it would have been our ninth wedding anniversary.
Oh my goodness. Wow. What
No,
a
no, the day before. I'm sorry, the day before. The day before. Because everyone I remember a distinct moment because people kept tagging me in our first dance video on Facebook, and it was like a gut punch because it was like I'm reliving this moment, in time, and we had gone away for our anniversary, uh, and he was just like, "Yeah, it's like it." It was I look back now and I laugh because it's like I I can't even imagine the life that I had had before the life that I have now. But it was very tragic. It was very monumental. It changed every part of who I am, um, but in ways that I have grown to appreciate. And I'm so grateful for. And like you said, I don't think it happened to me. I think it happened for me. And I've become such a different person and a person I'm proud to be when on the other side.
and how long was that ago?
That was 2 years. It was May 17th, 2022.
Wow. So almost 3 years now.
Yep.
How has your life changed in the last 3 years?
So much everything. Like, I can't even one, I guess I don't live where I lived before because we lived with his family.
Okay.
So I moved out of that house. I moved in with my sister. I got close with her, who I hadn't, talked to in years. I got to build this amazing sister bond that I'm forever grateful for.
Mhm.
Um, I got to start seeing my friends again. I got to model. I walked a runway. I got engaged. Um,
Congratulations.
I met the person who I can't imagine spending the rest of my life without, somebody who supports me, builds me up, who is always the loudest cheering for me. And I think all these things I would have obviously never happened. And I'm so grateful, like I said, for the way it came out on the other end.
Yeah.
But it
You
was
know,
rough.
yeah, it sounds rough. I feel like your story is so much like so many other women's story who
Absolutely.
put themselves and put 110% in the relationship into someone, and then suddenly it wasn't, you felt like, what did I do wrong? Why wasn't I enough for you? What happened? What could I have done more? And you realize, no, this is, did you ever feel like you knew who you were before your divorce?
No. I think like looking back, no, I think I played a role of what I was supposed to do and who I was supposed to be. And we were young. I mean, I met my ex-husband when I was 17 years old. We were together from 18 to 32. So I mean, we were just kids. Like looking back, we grew up together. We kind of like shifted into different spaces. And it's funny because people always say, like, do you think about how you could have done things differently? Or do you ever, you see him now, you've seen him now and he's like, happy and all these other things. Like, are you so angry? And I possess zero anger towards it. Like for me, I'm
Mhm.
happy that he's a better person for the next person because I'm
Yeah.
a better person from what happened to us. Like I think that if you really want growth and love for people, then you look back and you say like, I wasn't a perfect wife. He wasn't a perfect husband. We just weren't perfect people for each other. You know what I mean? Like things
Mhm.
change, life changes. But just because that happened sad to me doesn't mean I don't want positivity for him or whoever he chooses to be with in the future. Like, because looking back, I'll always thank him for the person that I am today, right? It's not him
Mhm.
who did it, but I became who I am because of all the things that occurred to me, all the
Mhm.
things that he put me through, all the things that we went through. Um, I'm a better partner because of it, right? Like, um, so I think, do I wish I could have learned all that stuff out a better way? Yeah, for sure. But I don't think I think when it first happened, I did think, what did I do wrong? I remember telling
Mhm.
my friend Lauren, um, what am I gonna do? This man has been my oxygen my whole life. And she was like, I'm gonna get you an inhaler and you're gonna learn to breathe and one day you won't need it. And I remember being like, it was about, I don't know, maybe a year and a half ago, where I remember standing outside and being like, holy crap, like I can breathe. Like I remember being like, I took a deep breath and being like, I never needed anybody else. I was always my own magic and my own oxygen.
That was such a beautiful analogy, especially that friend saying, I'll get you one.
Yeah, she's a great girl.
Yeah. Wow. So you said something. You had a role to play. What was that role that other people wanted you to be?
I think it depends on who the person was, right? Like I think from my parents, it was like a good daughter. It was, educated, go to school, become a lawyer, be smart, be successful. From like my ex-husband, it was like be attentive, be present, but also be able to bring in a lot of money. And then, I think from my ex-mother-in-law, it was like be a good Catholic wife. Like there was just so many things that I think were playing into it. And then for me, it was just trying to manage being all of these things at one time and then also not lose pieces of myself. You know what I
Mhm.
mean? Because I think, be a perfect employee, be a perfect everything. Like I remember I worked like 12-hour days and I worked every
Mhm.
weekend. Like I was giving 110 to the place that I was at. Um, and I just think, I wanted to be what everyone wanted me to be so badly so that I felt like no one could ever say I didn't do what they needed.
Mhm. It sounds to me that you were in a play and you were supposed to play all these characters, and somehow you never got to figure out which character you were truly meant to be.
For sure. I mean, I think I was like a background actor in my life, and in the last 2 years, I became the main character.
I love that. I love that. I actually wrote a blog about that, how I think so many women are the background character of their story. And sometimes things happen for you to eventually become the main character of your story.
Yeah, I think, you know, I'm really lucky. My parents always were very supportive of me in my life, and they were always like, go advocate for yourself, go speak up. Like I'm in a male dominated industry, and my mom was always like, don't hold back. She's a computer scientist, and she was a computer scientist in the 90s when women weren't there.
Mhm.
So she was always loud and outspoken. And I think for me, like I've always been bold, but I think my light started to lose shine for a long time. And I forgot quite how bright it could be. It was still there. There would still be pieces of me that were showing, but it just wasn't. It wasn't like it was like a dimmer, and the dim was really
Mhm.
low. And now there's no dimmer. Now it's bright all
It's
the
just
time.
bright, bright all the time. Yeah, yeah. So that event helped you, or I don't want to say helped, but led you to where you are today. And so, um, so I recall you mentioned that you are adopted, correct?
Yes.
Okay. Okay. Did that have any impact about how you are here today too, or no?
Yeah. I'm adopted from Peru. My brother and sister are both adopted. My brother's from Honduras. My sister's from Peru as well. Um, and my parents were always open about us being adopted. We had
Mhm.
trinkets from our countries growing up in our house. And we knew they weren't our birth parents. They didn't look like us. My
Mhm.
dad's like 6'7" and an old like a hippie from California, and my mom is like a very white 5'2" Jewish woman from New York. Like we didn't look like them. So we knew we weren't. I think it played a role in me staying okay with being in the background for so long. I think when you are adopted, at least for me, I can't speak to everyone because everyone's adopted experience is different. You're always trying to look for acceptability. And I was raised in a very I went to a private Jewish school um, for K through sixth grade where there weren't any other Latinas. And if there were, I didn't meet any. I didn't know of any of them. There weren't anybody of color that I can remember in any capacity. If there was, correct me, but I don't remember. And I I just there was a whole part of my heritage in life that was kind of like really repressed. And then when I met my ex-husband, it just kind of made sense to also be this same character to just kind of like fit into this role of being the wife. He's also adopted.
Mhm.
Um, and his adoption was very different. Like their whole raising was very different than my parents. My parents, like I said, were always very open. I don't have a traumatic memory where I found out that my parents had been lying to me my whole life.
Mhm.
Um, but I think what adoption does is for some people, specifically for me, it kind of made me always want to find a group that would call me their own. Because growing up, like in a multiracial life, being
Mhm.
Latina, but being raised white, was incredibly confusing, because I was never white enough. I was never Latina enough. I don't speak Spanish. My parents didn't, I didn't do any, we didn't go to school to speak Spanish. I learned Hebrew. Um, and there was there was just there was never a group that was like you're one of us, you're it, until this massive break with my ex-husband. And then I was enveloped by the Latina community, I was enveloped by the divorce community, I was enveloped by um the millennial women community. Like there was just so many groups that were like willing to take me in, and it was like for the
Mhm.
first time I was like, I'm finding community, I'm finding home.
Yeah. Yeah. You mentioned repressed, and this is nothing against your parents or anything, but do you wish things would have been different? Like, do you wish it would have been different in certain aspects about how you were brought up or no?
Not really. Like I said, I think that my parents, I would have rather known than not known. Like I would have hated to have
Mhm.
a moment in life where like 6 years in, 7 years in, I was like, wait, you're not my real mom. You know what I mean? Like,
Mhm, mhm.
I think I couldn't have been able, I don't know how that would have worked for me.
Yeah.
So I also think I used to punish my parents a lot for a lot of stuff, right? I used to punish my mom
Mhm,
for a million things. She was a working mom. She is not like a traditional woman in what people expect to be like overly loving. These aren't the things that she possesses. And years worth of therapy have taught me to give grace to people, and that everyone kind of deals with situations differently and deals with things the way that they have the tools to kind of handle. My mom did an amazing thing by putting me in therapy when I was 11, and being self-aware and able to understand other people um, has been an amazing gift that I'll be forever grateful for, because I think it's easy to punish everyone around you. It's a lot
mhm.
harder to give grace. And I think that um, to answer your question, no, there's nothing about it that I would change.
Yeah. I can always tell when people have done their work or are doing their work just the way they speak. And I could tell you've done your work, like your inner work.
Thank you.
Mhm.
You're
Yeah.
the therapy girl. You're supposed to therapy.
Yeah, I can tell because just how you spoke and how you didn't have anger towards your ex. A lot of people will still be very angry and say, "Oh, I wish that MF, worst things ever and yeah, whatever. He lost, everything." And yeah, you can still think that way and yet you said he helped, this helped me be a better person.
Yeah, for sure. No, I mean, he fumbled the bag, don't get me wrong.
Yeah, you
I'm a
totally.
gem. I'm a gem. He's out here, whatever. But at the end of the day, like, no, I think, yeah, I think therapy in life has taught me that everything happens for a reason. Everybody comes into your life for a reason or a season. And because of him, I got to meet my now fiance, and I couldn't imagine being in a world where somebody doesn't call me their princess and uh treats me the way that he treats me. So I really, I think I look back in this and I say this a lot, I would have lived that life forever,
Mhm,
and it would have been an unhappy life.
mhm,
It would have been a settled life. I'll never settle ever again. Now that I've seen what I deserve and what I can get. Um and also, like, he is very different with his now person now. Like, I from I hope he's treating her great. Like, he's living happy. I'm very happy for them. Like, I'm still very close with his mom. We're best friends. And because she's known me since I was 17 years old. People always find it crazy. But she's known me since I was 17, and she's seen me go through college, law school, my first legal job. And yeah, I mean, I if him breaking my heart and going through that got me the mother that I had in her and the now fiance that I have, there it was all a price that I'm willing to pay.
mhm. Wow. And so you still have a connection with your ex-mother-in-law?
Oh my God, yeah, she's my best friend. It's so crazy. She's honestly, she just called me twice too. It's so funny during this filming. She is honestly the best woman I've ever met. Like, you know what it is? So my mom was a working mom. Like I said, she is a strong woman, and I applaud her for that, for the day till the day that I die. But those traits aren't always the greatest thing maternally, right?
Mhm,
And my ex mother-in-law is just the kindest soul I've ever met. Like, she's when you like think of a warm hug, like that's the essence of her body, of her human, of her being.
mhm,
Um, and I would do anything for her. Like, I just think she saw me, her and her husband saw me through everything, all the downs of my life, all of the ups of, past 17, like, and yeah, I mean, I wouldn't give them up for the world. So, dealing with him got me them. I'm so grateful. They've taught me more than I could ever put into words. Even my ex-father-in-law, he was very a strict authoritarian. He is an ex-military man, and I remember he used to say, like, "You buy him books, you send him to school," like, whenever, um, somebody would say something that's, like, not, like, the smartest or forget something. And the other day, I found myself saying it, I was like, "You buy him books, you send him to school." And I'm like, it's funny the way these little things, like, end up being things that are massive parts of your life, right?
Yeah.
Um, and with my mother-in-law, she's a very, religious woman, um, and just her wanting to see the best in everyone had really changed a light in me. Um, and I think because of her, I know I'll be a good mom.
Mhm.
And I'm forever grateful for that.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow, your upbringing is, really shaped you into who you are today.
It definitely has. It definitely has. And that's just the tipping point. I mean, I lived with my best friend's family for a few years in high school, and they played a big role in it too. That's why I'm a lawyer. My best friend's dad is a lawyer, and I got to go see him do my first arbitration when I was 14. I fell in love with the way that he was able to communicate to an arbitrators, the way he was able to communicate with the clients, just everything about the law was so cool and so
Mhm.
interesting. And he was this amazing uh, patriarch. And I said, you
Mhm.
know, I want to be sturdy. I want to be a sturdy tree. I want to be strong for somebody one day. Um, and I'm the only one of their. I mean, he always calls me his like adopted kid. I'm the only one of his kids that went to law school, and I went to his alma mater. My first legal job was with him at a firm that he was at. Um, he works 2 blocks down from me, and it's been amazing. He really did shape a huge part of my life as well. So I've had amazing role models and mentors.
You have, yeah. And so when you when you received May 17th, 2022, what happened afterwards?
You mean like when he let, like when we broke up?
Mhm, like
I went into work. Well, no, I actually came back from work because it was I had taken off for our anniversary trip. And I remember a whole bunch of these really nice women coming up to me being like, "Oh my God, how romantic was your trip?" And I was like, "It was so romantic," because I couldn't like I had not been at this place for very long.
yeah.
Um, I ended up going to one of the other attorneys that was here and was like, "Hey, I got to tell you this thing. I don't really know how to handle it." I was like, "Yeah, my husband just left me." And she was like, and they were like, "Oh my God, we have to talk to HR or something," even though there is no HR at most firms. And I remember going to, I think it was like the office manager and telling her, and they were so sympathetic and they were so kind. And honestly, this firm had been so amazing. My boss, bless his soul, he is an 80, like 3-year-old man. And he um, called me that day that I left and was just basically like, whatever you need, we're going to help you. Do you need to help us to help you find an apartment? Do you need us to help you get your dogs? You know, take as much time as you need. I mean, my paycheck still kept coming. I worked, I think maybe like 1 full week for this first 6 months of my employment at the firm. They never asked me anything about where I was at or anything that was going on. They were just like, "We're here for you. We support you. What can we do?" And I'm forever grateful for that. They were really at a time that I thought that I I didn't know how to handle anything. Um, my employers really stepped up and were like, "What can we do? How can we help you? Don't worry about your job. Your job is safe." And just to hear those words, especially from a place I had been at for 2 weeks. I mean,
2
I
weeks.
had just accepted the job. Like
Oh, wow.
it was so crazy. It was so embarrassing, and it was. And that's the funny thing, right? Is that society does this thing as women to make us feel embarrassed by divorce, when like really I am not embarrassed by it. Nothing. I didn't do anything.
Mhm.
But I was so embarrassed to be in this climate to be like, yeah, my husband just left me. I don't know how to handle anything. But yeah, no, it was definitely, I didn't go to work. We tried to work it out for a little bit. It didn't end up working. I was living like out of my car, like with myself in my car, not out of it. I was staying with my sister, but having to move 13 years worth of my life out of their home. And even like, it's so funny because it was probably 2 months ago. that my stuff is now officially out of their house. And I said, throw it all away. I said, whatever was left, I never needed it. So throw it away. Um, because my ex-mother-in-law was like cleaning the house out and she was like, we still have all this like stuff. And I was like, throw it away. I was like, I'm wiping my hands of it. There's no point in me even going through boxes. Like whatever it was, I haven't had it for 2 years, so I don't need it.
That that's listening to this, that sounds like it was so traumatic.
It was definitely the most shocking thing that's ever happened to me.
Mhm.
Um, but I got sick after that. I have an autoimmune condition. I got diagnosed with RA and lupus, and um, my legs stopped working for like 5 days, and I was in a walker. And I think that to me was more traumatic than him leaving me. Thinking that my life was forever going to change, and it did.
Mhm.
Even to this day, with my autoimmune diagnosis, is it's a constant battle. Um, So I would say like that wasn't a man will never be the most traumatic thing that happened to me.
Yeah.
One of them, but not the
Mhm.
most.
Yeah. Wow. And so, I mean, your health got impacted, and obviously you didn't let that stop you because you and I are talking here right now. And what were your first thoughts when you're like, I need to forge my own path?
I was kind of thinking like, how do I embody my old self again? Like, what do I do? Who am I? Like, do I eat meat? Do I like cheese? Like, I had been so used to living for everybody else. I wanted to even think on the little things, right? I was
Mm,
like, down to the little things. What is it about Heather that makes Heather Heather?
yeah.
And I started experiencing all these things again. Like, I had been so used to when you get married and you've been married for so long, you get used to like ordering food so you can take half home for what your partner wants, right? And I'm like, I hate burgers. Like, I've been eating burgers every day for like 13 years because I'm preparing to take the half home. And I'm like, I don't even think I like onions. We always got cheesesteak with ketchup and fried onions. I think I hate onions. Um, and it started on those little small things because honestly, like I needed to figure out a way to make myself laugh. And I think that was the biggest thing, trying to find all of the ways to make myself laugh and experience joy, um, in forging my own path, in figuring out who I am. I had to find joy again.
I love that. Most people don't give themselves the time to think about what they like and don't like. And like, do I even like onions? Why do
Yeah,
I even like onions? Like, seriously, like, we don't even ask ourselves those questions. Like, do I even like pickles? Why? Why?
right.
And
I'm
it's
like,
like
I've been
those
eating every
questions.
day. Do I
Yeah,
like them or do I hate them or does he like them? Right. Like, I was like, do I like the color purple?
yeah,
He loved the color purple. Our wedding was got purple in it. Like he loved penguins. I'm like, do I love penguins? No offense to penguins, but I'm like, is this my favorite animal? I'm like, what's your favorite animal?
Penguins will not
And
be watching this, so you
no,
can
no.
say whatever you
Oh
want.
my God. Penguins hated me. Don't hate me forever. No, but I'm just like, I mean, we
Yeah,
had penguin cake toppers. I'm like, do I love penguins? I'm
yeah,
like, I don't know. And I do, by the way, like I do love penguins, but I'm just
they're
like,
cute.
I'm like, I had to figure out all of the things about me. And I wanted to do it in little things. I wanted to kind of retrace my life steps and say, like, let's start to where we stopped being ourselves and retrace and just try to figure out what us being on our own is defined by, what us being on our own means. Um, because I think a lot of people get stuck in that means you have to do it yourself.
Mhm.
And I was said, I need to lean on my friends. I need to lean on my family. I hadn't been close with my sister in years. I saw her only on holidays, and now we were about to live in a house together for the first time. We didn't grow up together. Our parents got divorced when I was 10.
Mm.
And I think she was 13 at the time, and she moved in with my dad, and I stayed with my mom. So our core years of our lives, we didn't live together. So we never had those moments. So like, I'm like now moving in with my sister, who I know very little about. Um, and I'm so grateful we got to learn so much about each other. And she was so gracious and so kind as to let me stay there and take care of me. And we were both kind of just going through these like big breakups together, her and her boyfriend, long-term boyfriend, were also broken up. So it was like I got to grow up with my niece. My niece is there. She's 16 now, but she was like 15, 14 by then we broke up.
Mhm.
And I hadn't seen her all that much. I had only seen her on birthdays and holidays and that kind of stuff. And we got to basically all grow up in a house together. My dad's there. My sister takes care of my dad because my dad's disabled, and um, it was like the greatest thing. I mean, it was terrible because it was like from this terrible reason, but it was the greatest thing to get to, basically get to be a kid again.
Mhm. Yeah. So you were literally rebuilding your foundations.
Yeah, and building new ones.
Mhm.
Because like I had said with my sister, there wasn't that relationship. So getting to find out all the things that I missed, the things that we didn't share. Like I said, our mom is an incredibly interesting human, but uh, opening up and being close with other people isn't something we were taught, um, even with each other. So
Mhm.
there's so much about her life I had no idea. There was so much about my life she had no idea, right? Like we had kind of always lived in this motion where we had to always give good propaganda for our significant others.
Mhm.
Um, and I think, we finally got to say like, well, let me tell you about all this shit. Let me tell you about this.
Let me tell you.
Because that's the hard part with always giving good propaganda, right? Is that when we broke up, everyone, and I remember I told all of my friends, I remember being like, it wasn't that I outgrew him. It wasn't that I thought I was a big shot, because I knew that was always going to be the narrative. That's always the narrative when a successful woman is that it was me. And I was like, I didn't do this. And I need to make sure everyone knows. I need to scream this from the rooftops that everyone knows that it wasn't me. Because I don't want that narrative to be that, because that's not who I am. I don't care of somebody's socioeconomic status. Um, and that was never a criteria in dating me. I was 17 when we met. You know what I mean? Like I didn't suddenly change the way that I thought in my life. It wasn't that he made significantly less money than me. He left me, and I wanted it to be very clear on that. I wanted everyone to understand that because um, very quickly the narrative changed, and the narrative was like, well, she works in the big city now. She has a good job, blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, all those things can be true. And it can be also that a man that makes a third of your income leaves you. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
Like rich men leave you, poor men leave you. It doesn't really matter.
Yeah.
Um, but I really wanted it to be clear on what occurred.
Mhm. Yeah. Wow. You said it. Like sometimes the best things happened for us after the worst things happened for us. And so even though that happened to you, you got to know your family again.
And I'm so grateful for that. I'm so grateful for that. I got to get close with my dad again, my sister, um, my niece. It was an amazing time. We lived in a house together. We were like kids. Like I said, it was like the life that I wish I had growing up. You
Mhm.
know what I mean? Because we had family dinner together every night. We were going to the gym together. We were like experiencing life together. Um it, and it was something that I needed, that I didn't know I needed.
Mhm. And so what foundations did you find about yourself, Heather?
I would say that family is always going to be an incredibly important portion of my life, and I will put it to the back burner for no one.
Mhm.
That a foundation of me is community and family, taking
Community.
care of each other.
Yeah.
Yeah, taking care of our own. That's the big thing that I push on social media, and it's the big thing about my life is that we need to be there for each other, and we need to be there to support our community. Other communities are out there doing what they need to do for them. We need to do what we need to do for us. Um, Me and my siblings are very lucky. We're very blessed. We were adopted by a family that was very generous and well off. But that's not the case for most Latina people. Um, and I wanted whatever I leave behind to leave it better, right? Like I want to leave whatever I touch behind better. And with my privilege and my life, I want to make sure that I'm helping other people. And that's why I think, finding out that community is the foundation of who I am. along with family, because they go hand in hand. Uh,
Mhm.
your community is your family is your community.
Mhm. Definitely. And how did you start getting to, like, activist, I was gonna say activision, the activist part. How did you start, like, was there anything specifically that happened? You talked about, like, community foundations and how the importance of, like, you grew up with a lot of privilege and you want to make things better. Was there anything that happened specifically that
I
started this
think
activism or
I think it was that I started to look around the legal community and realize that Latinas make up 2.5% of the legal community in America. And I
Mhm.
said, that's not enough and that's insane. And then
Yeah.
I said, where else are we not making up any numbers? And I saw that we were grossly underrepresented in almost every field. And it's not that we're not there, it's that visibility isn't there. It's not that there isn't a soap company that you can buy from, it's that you don't know about it. It's not that there isn't a jewelry company or a makeup company or a toothpaste company or a drink company. Um, you just don't know about them because they're not out there for everyone to consume. They're not out there for everyone to hear about. Just like you might not know about, you know, a fame, a Latina wealth financier. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
Because you didn't hear about her, but she's there.
Mhm.
There's the Latina health wealth activist. She's out there killing it. You just
Mhm.
didn't hear. No, people don't hear about her. The same thing, like along the lines with, therapists. A
Mm.
lot of the times people think of like therapists as like an older white man, and
Yes,
that's
it's
because that's
breaks
what's
down. Mhm.
right. That's what society does for you and to you. But I know a million, Latina therapists, Latino, Latinx. So I said, what can I do to create visibility? So it was last year I made a thread and I said, I want to make a series where I showcase Latino, Latina, and Latinx businesses. Um, and I said, it's not about selling you a product.
Mhm.
It's about letting you know a product is there,
Yeah.
and helping create generational wealth for my community. Because Latinas have a huge purchasing power that is being underutilized on their own community. Um, so I made videos. So I thought 10 people would reach out. I partnered with over 50 to 100 companies at this point now. I just expanded it into Black owned, BIPOC, Indigenous. Given today's climate, I wanna help all minority
Mhm.
owned businesses. But in my videos, it's not me selling you this. I'll often say like, "Hey, this shit could break you out." I have no
Mhm.
idea. You know
Mhm.
what I mean? Like I'm just showing you what it looks like on me. I'm
Mhm.
telling you it's there. It's not to say go buy this, go sell this.
Mhm.
It's to say like, "Hey, there's an option, and here's the option, a Latina version of it."
Mhm.
But you should buy it. You should go support them. But hey, if it's not your tea, it's not your tea. I'm not telling you it's the greatest thing since sliced bread. I don't know. It might not be.
Mhm. Mhm.
And I mean, I think that whole thing happened to me. I was sitting and I was thinking about life, thinking about my job, and then thinking about all the other ways that Latinas are underrepresented. And I said, what can I do? And I decided to make a series on Instagram, and I did. And I thought, like I said, 5 people would reach out initially. I think I have interviews of over like 10 different Latina professionals that are going to be coming out next at later this year. And then I have the regular videos that I film, every week where it shows the different products. But I said, hey, if this makes a difference, it makes a difference. And I've gotten amazing letters from people. I've gotten I work with big brands, small brands. It doesn't really matter to me because it was never about the brand. It was about who makes it. It was about
Mhm.
what it's doing for us, and is the money going back? Is it, what are you doing? Intentional spending, ethical spending, intentional being intentional with everything that you're doing.
Mhm.
And yeah, that's kind of how my activism started.
That's wonderful.
Thank you.
Yeah. So 2.5%, that's Latina in the US?
America.
That's not really high.
No,
Gosh.
I think it's 5% for African American.
Mhm.
But it's 2.5 for Latina. At least that was the last stat that was released.
Mhm. And you and I both live in America,
Yep.
and it is a very scary time right now for a lot of people.
It is.
And we need more people who are aware of all of this to really help and advocate.
Yeah. So, I always tell people, like, when it comes to anything immigration, like, there are amazing attorneys out there. There's Attorney Martinez.
Mhm.
She's huge on social media. She's the Barbie attorney. I've met her in real life. She's
The
amazing. She's
blonde
an
one,
angel.
right?
Yes, she's an
Oh,
angel. I
I love
love
her. I
her.
follow her too.
She's great.
If you're watching this, hey.
Yeah. She's great. I met her at an amazing an event called Level Up Legal that, and a female attorney, all female firm out of, New York runs. Her name's Shermeen. But they're amazing. I always defer to them. I don't know. I also know another really great immigration attorney, Devin, the lawyer. He's also on TikTok. Very, very funny, and is an immigrant himself. And he went through the process. So most of the time I refer cases, I like to refer to women. I like to refer to
Mhm.
minority women. That's just my thing. It might piss people off, but I'm sorry.
Nope,
It
I
is what it
agree.
is.
Yeah, it is what it
Um,
is.
and then I saw his TikTok and I saw his story and I said, "You're changing that idea for me because
Mhm,
you went through the process. You went through the entire process of becoming an American citizen and how you had to do it. And he speaks fluent Spanish. He lived in a I forget, it was a Latin American country for 6 months to fully immerse himself in the language. And I said, I'd rather refer something a case to somebody for somebody who went through it because that
mhm,
changes things, right? I'm a personal injury attorney and I've been in an accident. So I handle things. Also, I have an autoimmune condition, so I know pain. So
mhm,
when I talk to clients, I can talk to them in a way that I understand something maybe somebody who's never been in an accident doesn't, or maybe somebody who's never dealt with chronic pain does. And that's the same thing with immigration. Immigration is a very niche thing. It's something I know nothing about. I always tell people to defer to that because it's a scary time. I
mhm,
carry my passport with me everywhere I go. You know what I mean? And I never in a million years thought that I would have to do that or that that would be me, right? And people always say to me on the internet, like, oh, it'll never be you, like, you're an attorney, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, I don't think it would be. I don't think anybody's coming to look for me. But
mhm,
what I think is that I do a lot of activism work and I'm around a lot of people and something could happen where it's not meant for me, but I'm part of it. And I have to do what I have to do to protect myself, and I
mhm.
want everyone to be informed. I always tell people, know your rights, know whatever you have to do, not to go on to like a political rampage, but just know your rights.
Yeah, know your
Look,
rights.
talk to an attorney, please. Talk to an immigration attorney. Watch the videos. They're doing them every day almost.
Mhm,
Um, and just be informed and be educated.
mhm. I think to say it's never gonna happen to you, not you personally, but for anybody who's saying that, unfortunately, anything can happen to any one of us. It can
Absolutely.
happen to
I think
me,
it's
it can
naive
happen
to
to
say
you.
that. It's privilege that makes people say that.
Right.
It's
Yeah,
privilege until it occurs to you and then suddenly it's real, right?
right.
And like I said, I don't believe that anybody would ever, I don't know, come up to my firm and look for me. Um, but at the same time, I go to a lot of events, I go to a lot of functions.
Mhm,
And if people that are there are also being, you know, targeted, then unfortunately people can often get wrapped up in whatever everybody else is doing. And um, I have very little faith in people doing things honestly and doing things the right way. I think that a lot of the times, um, power people take advantage of power and it does something to the way people think. I mean, that's been studied for years. We can go back
mhm,
to the Stanford Prison Project. I mean, it does things to people's brains. Um, so I think it's a really naive thing to think it's never going to happen to you because it could.
mhm,
So
mhm,
I never think that. And yeah, I'm going to continue to carry my paperwork with me because it makes me feel safe. And
mhm,
if that upsets people, it upsets people. It's not really my
mhm.
problem.
Yeah. Yeah, I think, and I don't wanna make assumptions for you, excuse me, but I think as 2 women who are BIPOC, we've had different experiences, and we always know not always, but we know that things can always happen. We know
Always.
things can always happen, and we don't have certain protection that other people have. living in this country?
Absolutely. I'm an immigrant. I'm adopted. I wasn't born here, and I'm reminded of that every day. And it's a new fear that I never had. But it is what it is.
Mm-hmm.
I vote in local elections, stand up, do what you have to do, do what you have to do at the voting booth, vote, um, continue to educate your fellow friends, continue to make sure to share information that is effective and communicating necessary information. As all I always tell people, I it's an interesting time to live in right now.
It
It's
is.
definitely
Yeah.
not what my parents thought it would be, adopting minority children from another country.
I don't think anybody anticipated that we'll be living in time like this,
Yeah,
especially in this country.
agreed.
Mhm. Yeah. So a lot of activism for you, and you're also a model.
I am, yes.
Yeah. How did you
I
get
love
into
it.
modeling?
Oh my God, Threads. So it's
Oh,
so funny.
okay.
Crusades of Curves. It's an amazing organization. Mal, she does it, and she's everything. She changed my whole life. She had made a thread saying like, I'm looking for models in the East Coast area. She was having a runway show last year, and I messaged her and I was like, Hey, I'm not a model, but a formal model, but I'd love to be considered. And she was like, send me a walking video. And like 2 seconds after she sent it, I got the message at 7 a.m. I remember I was in my office. My assistant slash my old paralegal, Lauren, was in the office at the time. And I said, film me walking down the hallway. And she was like, what? And I said, film me walking down the hallway. So I'm walking. I sent the video 5 seconds later and she was like, you're booked. And it was the greatest thing. And I got to walk my first runway September of last year, and it changed my life. I've gotten content shoots since then. I've gotten different modeling gigs since then, and it's been a whirlwind. I'm walking another runway this year in June, and I'm just so excited. It's so great. It's at Crusades of Curves does a really phenomenal job of curating groups of women that are both supportive and beautiful, empowered, and I got to meet an amazing model, Amanda. She goes by Amanda Panda, and she taught me how to walk. The morning of, she was like, let's work on it. There was another amazing model, Risa Curve. There's KG. There's just so many amazing women. I can't speak highly enough of Mallory. She does a phenomenal job on who she picks to be a part of her productions. And never once did I feel like an outsider. Um,
Mhm.
and I'm so grateful. And I've never felt more beautiful, and I never felt more together. And yeah, I love the organization. I love her group, and I'm looking forward to walking with them again.
Wow.
It's like
Wow.
what dreams are made of, that Hillary
Yeah,
Duff
what
song.
dreams are made of.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you just walked and she's like, "Hey, you got it."
Yeah, she was like, "You're booked." And
My
and from what I've learned now, it's funny because now I'm more in the model industry, but now it's more of the fact that I responded so quickly, right? It's the fact that she asked me for something and I did it. And I
Mm.
think that's very big. So a lot of the times people in that industry really respect time, and they really respect somebody doing what's asked of them, right? And I did both. I think she waited less than an hour in my response time. You know what I mean? Like, I sent her that video that morning.
You
I
show
left the zeroing
initiative.
up. Right. And I think they really respect that. She really respected that. I can't speak for her. I'm pretty sure that's what she had said to me. But honestly, it was amazing. She's such an amazing woman, and um, she's gorgeous inside and out. And I'm so grateful that I got to meet her, and that she really did make all my dreams come true. I got to be a runway model. It was phenomenal.
Did you ever think that you could be a model? That you would be a model?
No, it's so funny. I made a video about this, and I was like, did I ever, if somebody would have told me that a year after my husband left me, that I would be walking the runway or doing podcasts or speaking in events, I would have told them that they were crazy. Um, but I think this is who I always was.
Yeah.
Like this is who I've always been. I think I just, like I said, repressed it for a long time. Parts of me was not shining as bright, but I've always been outspoken. I've always been confident in who I am. Um, I've always known I was that girl. I just needed everyone else to know that I was that girl.
Indeed. Indeed. You are creating your reality.
Manifestation is powerful, and a
Yeah.
positive mindset is powerful.
Yeah. What would be your feedback to anybody who, and I would say women, most of my viewers are women. What would you say to any women who went through what you went through or who are just feeling like my life is never going to be the same again? Like, what would you say to them?
Bet on yourself. Always bet on yourself. And you're the main character, so show up like it. Treat yourself like your best friend. This was the greatest advice anyone ever gave me, is talk to yourself like you would talk to your best friend
Mhm.
in every way that you speak to yourself, from when you wake up in the morning to when you go to bed at night. So when you're looking in the mirror, when you're critiquing anything about you, would you critique your friend's body that way? Would you critique the way that they spoke that way? Really make sure that you're your own best friend, because at the end of the day, that's what really, really matters.
Mhm.
Self love is important and it's powerful, and people can see it and they can feel it. And when it's real and not played, it's a powerful, powerful, powerful thing.
Yeah.
Authenticity is everything.
Yeah. When you found all of that, were more people drawn to you or were there some people who were were thinking like, "How dear Heather? How dear Heather?" Did you have anybody like that or were they all like, "Yes, Heather.
Yeah, I
Yeah."
mean, I think I always say this and people get angry about it, but I think a conventionally attractive person hates to see me coming. I think a conventionally attractive person hates to see somebody that doesn't fit societal norms love themselves and genuinely love themselves, and I do. Like, to
Mhm.
my core, I love myself. Um, I would say that's who I've gotten the most negative responses from, would be from people that society deems to be beautiful and perfect and everything. They seem to hate that I love myself. They
Yeah.
can't grasp it. And I think it's a lot of self projection, right? When you're insecure in who you are, it's really hard for you to understand how somebody who doesn't fit what you think they need to fit loves themselves. But I've always told myself, and I always say, I'm never going to be digestible for everyone. And I don't want to be.
Mm-mm.
I am who I am. And they don't like it. They don't like it. They don't have to watch. Don't
Yeah.
subscribe. Don't comment. You don't have to. It's not a big deal. It doesn't
Right.
hurt me at the end of the day. I make what I make for my friends, for my family, for my community. Um, and I don't expect everyone to like it or love it or understand it. But that's not going to change who I am or what I produce for the world.
Mhm.
I'm always going to be exactly who I am. And I always say that, the greatest compliment I think somebody can give me is that I am exactly who they thought I would be. That I am who I am on the internet as I am in real life. I never wanted people to think it's a facade, because it's not. It's
Mhm.
genuinely who I am. Genuinely love myself. I genuinely want best for the most people. You know what I mean? Like, I am very much in collaboration over competition. I'm never competing with another person. Your success doesn't affect my own. I'm happy for you. Genuinely, I want you to be successful. And that's hard and rare in the world. And I think that's why people don't like it, because they don't have it.
Yeah, you're right. People are very unhappy, very miserable, and if they don't have it, they don't want you to have it either.
Exactly.
But you got it, girl.
Thanks.
You got it. You
You
got
have it.
Thank
I mean, you
you.
have the whole
Thank
thing.
you. Everything that you're saying just like hits me like in the soul because your story, everything that you're saying, I think so many women who are watching this can so relate to it. Like a lot of us don't find ourselves until our 30s, 40s, and 50s. So I'm like 41. I didn't think about that for a second. But a lot of us
That's so
don't
young.
think, yes, it is. It is
My
so
life didn't
young.
begin till I was 32.
Yeah, and so for anyone who's feeling like they're behind, you're not behind at all. Sometimes you don't find yourself until like you're in your 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s because life had to happen for you to finally find who you are.
Yeah, and the best is yet to come.
Yeah, the best is yet to come. And so you model now and you're an activist. What else are you doing or not doing? I should ask, what are you not doing? You're on podcasts.
I am on a lot of podcasts.
Yeah.
I'm a lawyer. That's my day
Yes,
job.
you're a lawyer too. Yeah.
Um, yeah, that's what I do. I do speaking events, I do modeling, I do lawyering, I do activism work. I try to hang out with my friends. I go to a lot of events in New York. I love a good dance party. Um, I hang out with my fiance and my dog. I love to eat pizza. I like to work out.
Hmm.
I was on a wellness journey, which I always like to differentiate from a fitness journey.
Very true.
Um, I'm just trying to live my life better every day and be a better person than I was yesterday.
Hmm. Yeah. What do you speak about? Like when you go
I'm
to
speaking
talk?
this Friday,
You
and
are
I
okay.
am in Orlando,
Oh
Florida.
my gosh! Congratulations.
Oh, thank you. I'm very excited. I'm speaking at a Latina law summit, and I will be talking about being a lawyer, being Latina, and then doing branding, being a creator. You know, I do all. I usually I speak about. This is so funny because people always say to me, "Do you like prep for podcasts or do you prep for speaking events?" And I said, "No, because I get to talk about me, my favorite subject.
Yeah.
Like, it's the one thing I don't need a script for because it's
Right.
literally me. It's literally
Mhm.
about me and how my life has been." And I always say like nothing. And there's nothing off. There's nothing off the table. So like, people always say that to me, like, "Is there something you don't want to talk about?" And I'm like, "Nah." Listen, I got left a day before my anniversary. There's nothing that you can do to me. Like, nothing can hurt me, right? Like, there's no
Right.
embarrassment. Like, the internet saw me cry. They saw me go through all the emotions.
Mhm.
So yeah, no. I usually just I talk about me. I talk about my life. I talk about self love. I talk about confidence. I talk about finding yourself. Um, I talk about my journey as a lawyer. I try to be a mentor whenever I can. I think mentorship is huge and it's gate kept in a lot of communities.
Mhm.
So I always like to say I'm available for that, to do whatever I can to help people. That's usually
Mhm.
what I talk about, just me.
That's so lovely. Do you have a lot of people that reach out to you for mentoring?
You know, I do. And I read all my DMs, which is what's so funny because sometimes I wish I didn't.
Okay.
Um, but I do. I read all my DMs because I work with a lot of small businesses.
Yeah.
So sometimes like it'll show up in my hidden requests or something. So for all the people that write all the crazy things, I see it all. I see it all. And I need them to know. But yeah, I do. I get a lot of young Latino women that are thinking about going to paralegal school, wanting to go to law school, studying for their LSATs. I failed the bar exam the first time I took it. I'm always very transparent about it. People that failed the bar exam, they like to reach out to me. Um, you know, how did I get through it? What happens next? That kind of stuff. And I'm always open to it. You know, whatever I can pass on to the next group, I'm more than happy to.
That's so lovely.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
Yeah. So a lot of mentorship, a lot of them like look up to you for the work that you're doing.
Yeah, I mean, I think people like that I'm a different brand of an attorney, right?
Mhm.
Attorneying isn't my whole life. And I think that's the big thing, right? I think we're in a different generation than my parents' generation. You can't live on a single dimensional career anymore. You have
No.
to be multidimensional to survive, to eat, to be
Right.
live, to enjoy. And I think that's the big thing. I don't follow the rules of anybody else's game. You know, like I do my job as I'm supposed to do it. And then I live my life, and my life happens to be on the internet. And I think a lot of people ask about that. A lot of people are, you know, afraid or cautious as a professional to be on the internet. I'm not. Like, I'm just like, hey, this is it. This is who I am.
I
I'm like,
laugh because yeah, I laugh because people say the same thing to me, and I'm like, "No, what am I afraid of? I'm self-employed. What's gonna happen to me? I get canceled
I'm
from
not
what?"
self-employed, and
Okay.
my job does watch my stuff. But then I also think to myself, I don't post anything crazy. One,
Right.
I don't ever say anything bad about my employer.
Mhm.
Um, Two, like you're not seeing me in a string bikini thong. You know what I mean? Like I'm very cautious on the modeling gigs that I take.
Mhm.
And I have rules and limitations because I have a professional life. But I
Yeah.
also view that professionalism is defined by the clothes that I wear. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? Like, I also don't play into that narrative. I think there's amazing women lawyers that are out here, like Delara and Reb Maisel, and there's another girl, Amanda, that are out here really changing the narration on being an attorney. The Gen Z attorneys are doing the work for me. Like, I am, I am just existing, and they are out here thriving and
I love
existing in a
Gen Zs.
bikini. I love
Mhm.
it. They're in a full Sabrina Carpenter fit, and I
Mhm.
love it. I'm eating it up, and I'm like, please continue to do this. Continue to
Mhm.
lip sync to these songs and dress the way you're dressing, because I please, please shake this old generation up, because I want them to understand that, like, what I'm doing ain't all that crazy. Like, I'm
No,
doing I'm
no.
doing like a fit check. I'm doing like a hot girl walk. I'm doing like
Yeah.
a modeling and like maybe a somewhat of a low cut V. Um, you're not. I don't do anything all that crazy. I don't write anything super, offensive on the internet. I try to keep it relatively clean. And I just share my life experience. And
Mhm.
I think it's important. I think that social media is there for people to feel less alone. And it made
Mhm.
me feel less alone. So if I can make other people feel less alone, that's my goal.
Yeah. Do you think if you were not a woman and a woman of color, you would be perceived differently or no?
Like, would it be less bad?
Yes.
Um, I think it would be more acceptable for the general public.
Mhm.
For the field, I think you would still get scrutiny, just in a different way. I
Mhm.
think there are skinny blonde attorneys that get scrutiny, right? There, I think there are some male content creators that are attorneys. There's like Matt Lawyer, there's Devin Lawyer, like my friend I said. There's um, Brian White, Bob Simon. There's time. I mean, and they get to go out and party and do fun things. So I mean, I guess like it really just depends on. They also have their own firms, so I think that's also it, right? Like, I think I have to think in the context of I work for somebody.
Mhm.
And but I always do say, like, and I say this on every podcast, I say it in everything in the beginning of my Instagrams. Everything I say when is my express opinions of my own. Nothing I
Mhm.
ever do reflects my firm,
Yeah.
or opinions of my firm.
Mhm.
Um, but yeah, I mean, I think it's controversial just being a woman in law. It's controversial just being a Latina woman in law. So you add those things, and you add the fact that I don't play by the rules all the time in terms of like
Mhm.
being a conservative woman in the way that I dress, look, and act. Um, you add more fuel to the fire. But I'm at a place where I was always very transparent with my job. Upon me coming here, I said I have social media. Like, I left a previous firm because they weren't open to social media. I said I have social media. I go on podcasts. You cool with it? They were like, yeah. So, and they also stuck with me when my husband left me. So they've been pretty understanding, pretty tolerable. I also do my job.
Mhm.
That's the big thing. Like, being a professional doesn't mean you can't do all these other things. It just means you have to have time management. I have a really good group of people that are around me. I have a good paralegal at my job. My old paralegal who used to work here is now my assistant outside of here. Her name is Lauren. She's great. I love her. She maintains my other stuff. So like, she travels
Mhm.
with me. Um, she, makes sure my life flows pretty easily that way. So I have two assistants that handle my stuff. So time management is usually handled for me. So
Living
I
the
think,
boss
like,
life.
listen, it's expensive. It's something. It's definitely, but it is. It's, if you care about
Yeah.
things, you make time and energy for the things that you care about. And I love being a lawyer.
Mhm.
I love being a model. I love being an activist, and I'm not willing to give any one of those single things up yet.
I think we millennials and Gen Zs are realizing that we're not like our previous generation where we have to stick to one thing because it's not we don't know our future. And you have to create your reality. And so you're creating your reality. You're living your reality.
Yeah, for sure. It's not viable to live that way anymore.
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah. And so you model, you go on podcasts. How often are you traveling?
A decent amount, probably once a month.
That's pretty decent.
It's decent because I work like a 8:30 to 6:30. So like an
Oof,
8:30, 6:30, because I'm already working that, and then I travel. So yeah, and then I go to New York every weekend. So I
oh,
go to the city every weekend.
okay. And you live in
I li
Delaware.
I live in Delaware, yeah,
Okay. How far is that for you to go to
2
New
hours.
York? 2 hours. Okay.
But that's where
That's
all the
a
modeling
hike.
stuff is. Yeah, so in addition to all those other things, I put together plus size events with another content creator, Kelly Pink. She's one of my really good friends. So we put together events for content influencers, uh, plus size influencers. So we do that. So I have to go to the city for that because it's in the city. So we do that like once every few months. So yeah, I'm always in New York. I'm actually looking at getting a place in New York. I have a place that I stay with my sister at. So, but I think I might get my own place up there, like
Yeah.
a small studio room, barely anything. Because let's be honest, anything in New York is like $1 billion, and I don't have my own firm, so I don't have $1 billion. I mean, like rent a room.
Yeah. Wow. So you are living your reality. What other realities will be yours soon or you're working towards?
So I'm looking at getting a house. I'm looking at having a child. So those are my next things. I think the next big journey I want to go on is motherhood. And we'll see, you know. I
Mhm.
get married in August, so I'm very excited about that.
Ooh, okay. August. That's coming up pretty fast.
It is.
Are you ready?
I am because it's the second one. So I already
Mhm.
I already know how crazy I am and how I can get things done pretty quickly. So yeah, I am ready. Everything I got my dress, got everything, got the venue. Yeah, I'm ready. I had my bachelorette party in May and I'm very excited about that.
Okay. You sound ready.
I'm ready. I'm as ready as one can be, right? I'm pretty easygoing this time. I was like, listen, I have the dress, I have the man. Those are the only really things I cared about.
Has would the priorities change from the first and the second one
Oh my
for
God,
you?
yeah. My first wedding
Okay.
was insane. The way that I was like a bridezilla, the way that everything had to be perfect, the way that I spent so much time. My family spent so much money, an astronomical amount, an insane amount. I never even think about that again. Um, when I look back, I don't even think my husband was with me half the time. Like I can't even
Hmm.
find pictures of us together that much at the wedding, which should
Hmm.
have been a probably a red flag.
Yeah, yeah, so you're ready, and next journey is motherhood and a home.
Correct.
Okay. Yeah. So again, you're like the epitome of forging your own path and owning it. And how are you owning it? I mean, what does owning it mean to you?
I just think being authentic, being genuinely who you are, not changing for anybody else, staying true to the things that matter to you in a sometimes world where it's hard to.
What would your feedback be for anyone, and again, a woman who is having difficulty or challenge time owning it? What would you say to them?
Eh, You only have one life. The only time is now. So seize it while you can. Because
Mhm.
you don't want to let it go by and then wish you always had, you know, done it then.
Yeah. Yeah. I said that in 2025, I was not going to have this conversation of imagine where would you be if you had only.
Yeah,
And then 5 years go by and you're like, I asked myself the same question. And it's been five
absolutely.
years.
If
Yeah.
only is a hard thing and something that you have to sit with forever. I never want to say that.
Hmm. Yeah. Lovely conversation. What else do you want other people or people to know about you?
I just think the only thing I can say is just, you know, try to be a good person. Be better than you were the day before. And never be afraid of your path being different than somebody else's because we're not all the same. Life isn't, the journey isn't linear. It's going to be
Mhm.
different for each person. And embrace your individuality, embrace the fact that your path is going to be different.
Mhm.
And it might look different. It might have different timing, different starts, different finishes, different bumps. Um, but just enjoy the ride because that's the whole point of this whole thing, right? Is to be on
Yeah.
the ride.
Yeah. I love that. I love that your journey is gonna be different from someone else's. The timelines are gonna be different, and we all have our own paths.
Yeah.
Mhm. Okay. Well, thank you, Heather. I so enjoyed this conversation.
Thank
It
you so
felt like a
much.
soul conversation today.
Thank you. I feel the same way. It's a great
Yeah.
conversation.
It was almost like therapeutic soul and,
Yes,
everything like spiritual and the whole intention of doing this podcast is to have these type of conversations, is to uplift and be kind because again, the world is whack and we are two people who come from very different worlds and we can still have this conversation.
absolutely.
Mhm. Okay. Well, everybody, thank you. You know how you said that you never thought that you'll be walking on a runway. I never thought that I would be saying, make sure you hit the like and subscribe button.
Always hit the like and subscribe button. I love that.
I never thought that I would be saying that. So, for anybody who's new who likes this episode, and want to subscribe, please hit the like and subscribe button. And Heather, I'll put down all your information in the description box. And is it okay if we? What's the modeling place that you do? Um,
Creative Curves is the company.
okay,
They put a show on every year, two
okay,
shows a year. So
okay.
yeah, she's really great.
Is it okay if we add that in the description box too, so that people can look at it who are interested in learning more
For
about it?
sure, for sure, for sure. Mallory is amazing. Definitely go check her out. I can't speak highly enough. She changed my whole life. So
Okay. Okay. Well, thank you so much, Heather. And catch Heather. You're on Instagram. You're on Threads. What else are you on?
Instagram, Threads, LinkedIn, and I am on TikTok, but I don't remember the handle and I barely use it, but it's attached to all my stuff. I'm also on Like to Know. You want to
Okay.
check out my fits? Go check them out on Like to Know too.
Okay. And I will add all of that in the description box. So if you want to follow Heather or work with Heather, all her stuff is in the description box. So again, Heather, thank you so much. I so enjoyed having this conversation with you. And again, you are the epitome of forging your own path and owning it.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate you having me.
All right, everybody, take care, and I'll see you all next time.